Hey guys, what's up? Happy Thursday. Today I want to talk about minimalism. Uh, so, as I started to really realize that I needed some changes in my life, I was doing a lot of hiking, camping, backpacking trips on my own by myself, just spending 3-4 days in the woods. I got into ultralight backpacking, which means my pack was around 18 pounds, which meant that I could go fast, I could go far. My body didn't ache, but it also got me thinking about how little I really needed when I went camping. Basically, minimal shelter, dried foods, just not much. And it coincided with me rereading the book Walden by Thoreau. And, I'm going to be giving you some book recommendations in these videos, and I think that there are some must-haves. Walden is one of those books. You must have Walden, and get the one with the extra writings in it. You can go to McKay's over here, a local bookshop with used books, and they have tons of copies of Walden. I was just in there the other day. Walden, tons of copies. At least read the first chapter called Economy. I think it's the first chapter. Read Economy in Walden. And also there's a chapter at the end, if you get the one that has the extra writings. It's called Life Without Principle. Man, I love that chapter. I love that chapter. So go get yourself a copy of Walden. The other book I'm going to talk about today, or at least share a quote from, is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. That's a fun book. I actually have it in a graphic novel, so it's kind of funny. But it's got some really solid truths in it, and I'm going to share one of those with you in today's video. Today we're talking about minimalism. Stripping down what we need. And as I was out there in the woods reading Walden, especially Economy, he's talking about, what are our true needs? Like, what do we really actually, when you just like boil it all down, what are our needs? And he pretty much sums it up into 4 categories. The first one, we need food. And I guess you could throw water in there. Food and water. These are our sustenance. I just want to say real quick about food. Food has become a topic of concern today because when we talk about the environment that we live in, our food choices have a heavy impact on our environmental impact, our footprint. So there are definitely certain food choices that you can make that will be less harmful to the environment, and other food choices that you can make that will be more harmful to the environment. I don't really want to throw out any kind of an agenda or be dogmatic or tell you how to live your life, but I've chosen since my late teens to eat a plant-based diet. And I'm learning more and more now that not just a plant-based diet, but I also need to be eating more of a whole foods, more natural state type of food. So, going to these communes where there were a lot of gardens and they were more conscious about their waste has been helpful. I was able to see ways to reduce my own waste. And I've really started thinking a lot about, man, when you're on a commune, it's like, what are you going to do with packaging? What are you going to do with that? Like, you don't just throw it in the dumpster and they come by and pick it up. You have to figure out how you're going to get away from it if you're living in a rural area. So that adds an awareness in your mind. What are you bringing onto your property? So a lot of the food you will create yourself, and it doesn't require packaging. And to me, that's great. So now that I'm back in the city, I'm like, what about all this fucking packaging, dude? Like, I don't want it. But when I go to the grocery store, my options are very limited. However, I am not willing to just like secede to the way the culture is and say, well, I guess I have to live a life full of packaging. Instead, I'm learning to lessen my needs, find bulk foods, stuff like that. I guess I wasn't planning to talk about all this right now in the food section, but that's where the rabbit trail went. So anyway, maybe we'll talk more about that later or in another video. Anyway, he says we need food and we need water. Obviously, this is our fuel. This is what gives us the energy we need to function. And then he talks about shelter. And shelter basically, food basically provides body heat for us. We have these bags of skin and bone and hearts and organs that function, and fuel provides the functioning of those things. So then he says we need let's talk about clothes first. We need clothes to encapsulate our bodies to protect our body heat from escaping. Not always. Like on a hot summer day, you realize you kind of don't need clothes, at least functionally. And sometimes in communes, they don't wear clothes. It makes sense. I get it. It's whatever. Sometimes in communes, I don't wear clothes. That's another subject we could talk about in another video later. But clothes can keep our body heat protected. And I guess because of the society we live in, it also protects us from going to jail. Two purposes. Our other need is shelter. And shelter is another one of those body heat. Basically, when you strip it all down, the only reason we need shelter is if it gets too cold for our clothes. Think about it. That's the only reason we need shelter, is if it gets too cold for our clothes, or if it's too rainy and wet. So like down in the Pacific Islands, the shelter need, the basic minimum requirement for shelter is very different from what we might need here in the States, like in Michigan. So I thought it was interesting that Thoreau basically talks about how he's walking in a field and he sees like a metal container apparently that's like 6 feet long by like 2 feet wide, so you can think of it as it's almost like a metal casket. And he said, I could just poke some holes in that to breathe, and that would be sufficient as shelter. You think about it, and that, when you boil it all down, that really would be sufficient for shelter at its core. So our needs actually are very minimal. We need some clothes to protect our body heat. We need food as fuel to create our body heat and to maintain our body heat. We need shelter. in addition to clothes, oftentimes. And then lastly, he says we need fuel. And the reason we need fuel is because some foods need to be cooked. And sometimes it's too cold that our clothes and our shelter isn't sufficient. So we need to have fires. What else do we need? Do we need anything else? I don't know. I don't know. I've thought a lot about that. And you know, so as I'm out there hiking with so few things, I had my shelter, I had my food, I had my clothes, and I had my fuel needs met. I started to realize I really am enjoying this freedom, and I really realized that I don't need much more than this. So we were at a time in our life where we were buying this big freaking house for like $230,000, and it just had all this drywall and all this wood and all this freaking carpet and roofing and oh my God, a lawn and landscaping and a porch and concrete driveway and blah blah blah. Oh my goodness. How overwhelming in comparison to what I was experiencing. There was such a contrast between what was happening in life and what was happening in my heart out in the woods. Well, I really wanted the freedom that I was finding, but I didn't know how to break free. Interestingly, in reading Walden, there's a quote. It says, "When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it." And there seems to be a principle that I'm finding in my life that when your heart starts telling you you want something, that means that you should really pay attention to what your heart is saying. And sometimes when you're full of fear and you're full of doubt and you're full of confusion as to how to move forward with your heart, sometimes, well, maybe not sometimes, I think the universe will be working with you, showing you ways that you can go. But if you are hesitant and will not go in the way of your heart, I think that sometimes the universe just comes in there and says, all right, I'm going to do it for you. And it takes over. And it freaking does stuff in your life that you didn't expect. And that's what happened to me. I'll spare you the details, but basically the universe came into my life and just freaking dropped heavy bombs. And everything just exploded. And I found myself basically on my back with nothing. And you know what? When you have nothing, you have nothing to lose. And I realized, holy shit, although it was insane, and I look back at it and I think, whoa, I can't even explain all I went through. I look at it and I think, man, I remember feeling like I had gained my freedom. And that just happened to me recently again. Maybe I'll share that in another video down the road. But less is more. And when you have less, you have more freedom. And like I've been saying, freedom is your friend. Freedom is the one thing that you want. You want your soul to be free. I want my soul to be free, and it's willing to shed whatever skin it needs to have that freedom. So I've got about a half a minute here left. I might go over just a pinch today. I feel like this topic's super important. Going back to the environment thing, minimizing our needs is so important, not only for our soul, but also for the environment. all of us having all of these material goods and all of these big ass houses and fancy fucking cars is ruining our earth. It is ruining our earth. And we all know that. You can't sit here and deny it and tell me that I'm wrong. And I'm equally responsible, and I feel like I have a crisis that I have to attend to in my life in learning how to live in harmony with the environment with the earth that I live on. That's crucial for us to be thinking about that. We cannot afford for each of us to have our own homes, to have our homes equipped with every single gadget and electronic device and kitchen appliance and frickin' tool and every damn thing that we all think we all have to have. We can share a lot of that stuff with our neighbors. And we need to learn to start creating like neighborhood sharing banks. Not everybody has to have a circular saw, because how often do you use it? You can borrow, you and your neighbors need to come together in community and create a sharing bank of things that you can share instead of everybody owning. That's like the bare minimum. Communities are doing that. Communities are coming together in closer proximity and sharing everything. That is reducing the impact on the earth. So, some principles: refuse to live in a way where you have to have all the stuff. Minimize. Refuse what you don't need. Go back to like the basic needs. 2, reduce what you do need. The things that you do need, learn to simplify them. You need food, but let's learn to reduce our impact on the earth by the types of food that we're buying, the packaging, the transportation. You know, I'm out on the freeway and there are trucks everywhere all the time, and I'm like, what is in all these freaking trucks? It's just a bunch of crap going here and there and everywhere. Look at that, one semi full of crap that we probably don't even need, going from here to there. It's filled up on gas multiple times. How many gallons does a semi take in one fill? And it's filled up multiple times. Gallons and hundreds of gallons of gas to take this crap from here to there. And then that's just one semi truck. Look around you on the freeway. You are surrounded by semi trucks going from here to there with crap nobody needs. Whew. I cannot be a part of that anymore. Can you? I've got to learn. I mean, online shopping has become something that I'm seriously reconsidering. Finding my stuff locally if I can, producing my own stuff, reducing my needs, reusing the things that I have, reusing the things that others are done with, recycling things that I buy, getting rid of my packaging, getting rid of my need for transport, having everything shipped to me here in Chattanooga. Oh my goodness. And then, you know, that's a lot right there. Let's stop there. We're at 19 minutes, way over today. Still gonna be shooting for the 15-minute mark, but man, this was a doozy. This was a big boy. I'm really glad I got to talk about that today. I hope that we can continue that conversation. Take it easy.